Glasgow is a city of contradictions, a place where grand Victorian facades stand side by side with stark, uncompromising blocks of concrete. Some people think these concrete structures are ugly, don't fit in and need to be torn down. Me? I couldn't disagree more. I think they're an incredible and interesting window into our past.
Brutalism was bold. It was different. It had soul. But today many of Glasgow's brutalist landmarks are disappearing, demolished, forgotten, swept aside for something safer, more neutral, more boring. This video is my way of remembering them, of showing you why they matter. I didn't grow up here in Glasgow. I grew up in a small village in Surrey called West Byfleet. It was green, quaint, picturesque, except for one thing.
Sheer House. A brutalist office block built in the 60s, a concrete monolith that towered over everything else. It was nothing like the leafy world around it. It didn't belong. And yet, it fascinated me. It was one of the first buildings that made me stop and think. Why do some buildings blend in while others demand to be noticed? What makes something ugly and what makes something beautiful?
I wouldn't say I loved it, but I didn't hate it either. It had presence, and that's a lot more than I can say for most modern architecture.
Brutalism emerged in the 1950s as a response to war. Cities needed rebuilding, fast. Architects wanted to create buildings that were functional, honest and built to last. No decorative flourishes, nothing flashy, just raw materials exposed for what they were.
The term brutalism doesn't come from brutal, although it might seem like that. It actually comes from the French term béton brut, which means raw concrete. I think there's something deeply honest about that. These buildings don't pretend to be something they're not. They don't try to blend in. They don't try to please everyone. They hold their ground.
Living in Glasgow, I'm pretty spoiled with interesting brutalist buildings to talk about. However, I've narrowed it down to 5 examples from Glasgow and the surrounding areas that each have their own interesting history, purpose and designs. At 24 stories, Annie's Land Court is a landmark of post-war optimism. It was Glasgow's answer to the housing crisis, high-rise living in a new era. Some see it as cold and imposing, but look closer. The design is precise, the structure is rhythmic. This isn't just a block of flats, it's a statement. Similar in design to the much more famous and well-known Trellick Tower in West London, designed by Erno Goldfinger, Annie's Land Court is the city's only listed tower block, a rare acknowledgement that not all brutalism is disposable. Unlike other tower blocks in Glasgow that were built as part of a wider development, with sometimes up to 5 or 6 towers as neighbours, this stark building stands proud and alone, surrounded on all sides by low-rise housing and shops. Furthermore, unlike its famous London doppelganger, Annie's Land Court hasn't succumbed to the same levels of gentrification that has plagued London, and is still offering social, low-rent and decent housing to ordinary working-class Glasgow residents, exactly as it was designed to do over 50 years ago. Brutalism wasn't just about housing, it shaped the way we shop too. The Savoy Centre is a perfect example. An indoor marketplace wrapped in raw concrete. It's chaotic. A little rough around the edges, but there's life here. Character. Something you won't find in today's sterile shopping centres. Unfortunately, the interior has seen several rounds of modernisation throughout the years. However, if you were to strip it back, the hidden corners, forgotten stairwells and solid concrete designs are still there. It's a brutalist time capsule. Home to an eclectic and bizarre selection of shops, cafes, palm readers, old fruit machines, a notorious nightclub and of course, larger-than-life characters, this building is an institution right in the heart of Glasgow. The Glasgow School of Art is best known for its Charles Rennie Mackintosh design building, but just across the street, the Bourdon building tells a different story. Built in the 1970s, it's pure brutalism, stark, functional and unpretentious. Named after the French architect Eugene Bourdon, the Bourdon building was designed to provide Glasgow School of Architecture with expansive open-plan studios for collaborative work. By bridging Renfrew Street with a cantilevered structure, it creates uninterrupted studio spaces up to 62.2 metres long, maximising functionality and openness. Large east and west facing windows enhance natural light and city views, whilst the bold design reinforces the school's identity as a hub for creativity and innovation. It might not be as well loved or regarded as the Mac, but it's definitely just as practical and still delivering on its design brief. St Peter's Seminary is brutalism at its most haunting. Built in 1966 as a training college for Catholic priests, due to its declining student numbers and maintenance issues, it was closed as a seminary in 1980 and was later briefly used as a drug rehabilitation centre before being abandoned in 1987. Despite its Category A listing and recognition as a building of international significance, it has suffered from vandalism, fire and neglect, remaining in a ruined state left to decay, consumed by nature. But even in ruin, it's breathtaking. The way the light cuts through the skeletal remains, the sheer ambition and ridiculous scale of the design. It's a very special building and I hope it can one day be restored. I absolutely love this place and in my opinion have saved the best for last. Designed and built between 1963 and 72 as part of the New Towns Act, designed to move people out of Glasgow to prevent overcrowding.
What's it called?
Cumbernauld Town Centre was a vision of the future, a radical rethinking of urban life. Multi-level walkways, raised streets. The idea was the whole town centre would be housed entirely inside one building. Built straddling a dual carriageway, it housed shops, a hotel, an ice rink, bowling alley, health centre, penthouse apartments, as well as police, fire and ambulance stations. There was also a library and technical college. It was bold, experimental and deeply misunderstood. Despite its ambitious design, it faced heavy criticism for its strong and stark architecture and was twice named Scotland's worst town centre. Over the years, parts of the structure were demolished and replaced, whilst others fell into disrepair. Strangely enough, the idea behind the Cumbernauld Centre was once envisioned nearly 500 years ago by Leonardo da Vinci. He pictured a city where all the vehicles move underground, leaving man to freely walk in the sun. Sounds very similar to Cumbernauld, apart from the sun part. North Lanarkshire Council have since purchased the centre and are currently in the early stages of demolishing it. Soon another piece of architectural history will be erased. But look past the decay and you'll see what was meant to be, a place where architecture dared to be different.
Brutalist buildings aren't neutral, they demand a reaction. Love them or hate them, you can't ignore them. Isn't that what good architecture is supposed to do? As we erase these structures, we also erase a piece of architectural history, a moment in time when architects were brave, when buildings had guts, and when concrete shaped the skyline.
Thank you for watching. I want to extend my heartfelt thanks to Glasgow City Heritage Trust and their wonderful exhibition Brutal Glasgow. It gave me a lot of inspiration to make this and filled in the blanks on dates and facts. The exhibition is mostly online and you can have a look for yourself via the link below. I highly recommend it. See you in the next one.